Washington. And you can go from the bad PR around the name, you can all the way down to years of overspending in free agency. We can go on for a long time about the problems with Snyder and Bruce Allen. But I think this year, Jay Gruden, whether he just was beaten down by the whole thing, he had given up, and that was quite obvious for anybody to see. He wasn't really putting the effort and the care into preparing this team. So I think that had already gone. And when that happens, you've got to move on from the coach. No matter how bad the rest of the organization is, you've still got to move on from the coach. We're kind of stuck with Snyder, and God, it looks like we're stuck with Bruce Allen as well. And I think until those things, or until at least Bruce Allen changes, I don't think much will change at Washington. I had personally had high hopes that Doug Williams would get more say. And I know in the scouting department, Scott Campbell's there. He's excellent with his work on the draft and on players. He's very highly regarded, but he'll leave as well, because the organization, the franchise, it's just a absolute catastrophe. It's probably, and this is saying something, it's the worst. It's the worst organization in Washington, and that includes the Trump government.
The one last thing I'll say here, and James, we don't need an injury report on this game because, quite frankly, no one cares.
Actually, no, we do, because some of this stuff is very interesting.
What?
James,
trust me on this. Oh, really? Well, before you go, I'm gonna be real quick on this and get this out the way. 80% of Washington's offensive line is on the injury report is questionable. That's Morgan Moses, Wes Martin, Ross Porshaber, and Brandon Sheriff. Vernon Davis is in a concussion protocol. So Ross Porshaber.
Here's Backer.
Yeah, him. And Vernon Davis is in concussion protocol, so he joins Jordan Reed on the injury report because Reed is still out, unknown why. And I don't know who's playing tight end for Washington this week, so I find that interesting.
Jeremy,
Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. The Dolphins did have a bye last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Alan Hearns is in a concussion protocol. Did the bye beat them that badly?
Apparently. We did say the Dolphins would find a way to lose even in their bye week. Apparently they found a way.
He's in concussion protocol. Albert Wilson, the other receiver, is nursing a calf and a hip. Xavier Howard is showing up as questionable, along with Rashard Jones at safety. And, yeah, that's all that's worth mentioning there for the Dolphins.
All right, Neil, last thing on your terrible team. If they do end up getting the number one pick, you are on record as you don't want Tua, you want more picks.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy. I really want to see Haskins get a fair crack at the whip next season. So, yeah, that would be the ideal situation, is get number one overall pick and then get all those picks from Miami.
That's well done. All right.
Next.
It is your team, James, the Philadelphia Eagles. They are on the road at the Minnesota Vikings. This, too, could have game of the week all over it. Eagles are 7th in the power rankings. The Vikings move up to 14th. Vikings currently favored by 3 in this one. Vikings have won 3 of their past 4 versus the Eagles, including their last meeting in October of last year. It was a 23-21 victory in Philadelphia. Both quarterbacks play well versus the other team. And that means Kirk Cousins, James, just so you know. I'm going to take the Vikings because they are at home. And, James, you are agreeing with me.
I don't want to. Trust me, I really didn't want to pick this game at all. But despite what you saw last week against the Jets, this passing offense has problems, namely drop passes. And until guys can catch passes from Carson Wentz, we're going to struggle. The one thing that was done during the game was they shifted carries from the rookie Miles Sanders to the veteran Jordan Howard. So he'll get more touches. He's the banger between the tackles, and that should sustain the offense on the field for long drives, keeping Minnesota's offense off the field, because when they do have the ball, I'm worried about Diggs and Thielen because we are running out of bodies to play in the secondary.
Steve, who do you like in this one?
I'm with you, Pod. I picked the Vikings, but mainly because they're at home.
Neil, tell us why we're wrong.
Sorry, I just popped out. Is James still talking about the Eagles?
No. Steve agreed with both James and I that the Vikings are going to win this game. You picked the Eagles, so you've been sleeping on James talking about how bad his team is.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I think. I think I probably maybe like the Eagles better this year than James does. I picked them to win up in Green Bay. Was that 2 Thursdays ago? I'll take them to win this game. I think Philadelphia, for me, are still the number one team in the NFC. And I think they're in these games against teams that are probably contenders, they'll find a way to win. I like Philadelphia an awful lot, and I think it was very encouraging to see the pass rush, okay, albeit against the Jets last week. It was encouraging to see them generate pressure from all across that very talented defensive line. Plus, it's Kirk Cousins, and when Kirk Cousins gets pressure on his face, bad things happen.
Well,
provided we can generate pressure.
James, what is the injury report?
Against that offensive line, easy.
For the Philadelphia Eagles, Orlando Scandrick was a non-participant in practice due to an illness. Rodney McLeod was limited with a knee injury. Jason Peters and Tim Jernigan are both questionable, though I'm leaning towards Jernigan not playing. Darby and Sproles are out. Jackson is doubtful, which means he's not playing, along with Maddox, who is also doubtful. And Corey Clement is questionable. I don't expect him to do much outside of returning kicks. For the Vikings, guard Joe Klein, linebackers Ben Getton and Kentrell Brothers show up on the injury report, along with Mackenzie Alexander.
Number one team, Jay, number one team against the run in the NFL so far, the Philadelphia Eagles. So you can imagine they stuff Cook and just tee off on Cousins. That's going to be ugly because that offensive line for Minnesota is not great.
All right. The final 1:00 game is the New Orleans Saints at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Saints are third. Jaguars are 20th in our power rankings. The Jaguars are favored by 1 point at home. While the legend of Gardner Minshew may not be over, the difference in this game, I think, is the defense. Saints allow less yards, 363 to 382, and have more takeaway giveaways, +1 versus -4, than the Jaguars. So I will take the road dogs in the Saints. So does James and Neil. Steve, where do you fall?
It's a sweep.
All right. We've swept it. Teddy Two Gloves has looked pretty good, James.
Absolutely. And that game against Tampa Bay last week was basically him picking apart a pretty solid defense and the league leader in sacks. So, I have no doubts or misgivings about Teddy Two Gloves. I think that they win all 6 games that Drew Brees is expected to miss up to this point. Just checking their schedule briefly, I don't see where they falter over the next couple of weeks.
So, Jay, just to go back to your question about Bledsoe and Cam Newton, do you see a similar situation here?
No, not at all. This is different. To me, and I've said this before, there is no quarterback more linked to a city than Drew Brees and New Orleans. And that's even more so than Brady and Foxborough, Boston, however you want to consider that particular link. I don't foresee any way that Drew Brees doesn't get his job back unless his thumb is not 100%. And if you've seen his Instagram, he's already throwing a football, which he's not supposed to be doing. So I have a feeling Drew Brees is going to be back in 6 weeks and he's going to be just fine. And you're right. Looking at their upcoming schedule, at Chicago next week is a tough one for them, even with Drew Brees. Then Arizona, bye week, Atlanta at Tampa, Carolina at Atlanta.
So
it's a pretty easy stretch here.
Chicago's the only questionable game, and I only say questionable because that depends on who's playing quarterback.
Also true. But I would suspect with the week off, we will see Trubisky back behind center.
Although
separated shoulder, Jay, takes about 3 to 4 weeks minimum.
Although division games are always difficult. Division games.
The Falcons game may be tricky as well. So, I mean, their records tend to go out the window when they play each other.
Yeah.
What is the injury report for this one?
Nothing of consequence for the Saints. We all know the deal with Drew Brees. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, cornerbacks Jalen Ramsey and DJ Hayden show up as questionable. Ramsey's back injury, as I use air quotes, had him as a limited participant in practice. If he doesn't play, which he didn't last week, I don't really give their defense much of a chance of slowing down anything the Saints do on offense. Tight ends, James O'Shaughnessy and Josh Oliver, knee and hamstring injuries, respectively. O'Shaughnessy was placed on injured reserve. Oliver is questionable. And safety Rodney Harrison shows up on the injury report as questionable.
If Jalen Ramsey was on a different team, Neil, would he be 100%?
Oh, God, yes. He's got the phantom back injury, hasn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely. They could have used him last week against Carolina. I think that was a big difference in that game.
Did I tell you one team that could use them? Steve's team.
Sure.
He'd definitely be 100% for that team.
My team could use him, but we have no cap room to accommodate his lofty contract demands.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we have made it to the 4:00 games. And
How many?
The schedulers have given us 4.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yes, a solid rundown. Doesn't matter for me here in the Northeast. I'm stuck with just the Cowboys-Jets game.
Yeah,
I don't get to see any of these other games, which one of them I think is a game of the week. This game that we're about to talk about, probably right up there with the Washington-Miami game.
Hey, just going back to last week, it wasn't too bad because we got to see Ellen DeGeneres sitting next to and chatting with George W. Bush.
Didn't I say there was no politics on this show?
Well, and also, it was only really to set it up, Jay, because let's face it, that Dallas-Green Bay game, the only W they saw in Dallas was George W.
Well done. Well done. That was also the game that during my recap recording with Buffalo Rob, was still going on at 8:00 Eastern. What the heck? How in the world did that game take so long? Was it penalties?
Garbage
what was
time,
going on
man.
there?
It was garbage time scoring and the clock stopping a lot.
That's listen. If you're going to have a kickoff at 4:30, the game's got to be over by 7:30. It's just you can't be playing into it. When football night in America is getting ready to be over. I still can't have a game still in progress unless there's overtime going on.
That was fine. Dallas were getting beat. It was very entertaining. I could have done another couple hours of that game.
Well, here we go. Toilet Bowl 2 this week. Atlanta Falcons, who are 1-4, at the Arizona Cardinals, 1-3-1. The Falcons are 25th in the power rankings. The Cardinals 28th. Falcons are road favorites by 2.5 points. I've been meaning to ask MJ. I'll ask you, James, if you know. Is Matt Ryan Bortlesling the season right now? Because he is one of 5 players, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, Kurt Warner, and Steve Young, to have 300-plus passing yards in each of his team's first 5 games in NFL history. I mean, how the heck is he accumulating all these yards and the team is 1-4?
I can answer the question for you. I mean,
Go for it.
Have you seen their defense? It's basically you, me, James, and Steve. That's about it. We're probably better.
I think
we can generate more pass rush.
That's been the problem. No one's seen their defense.
No one has seen it.
It's terrible.
I will say, if you want to talk about a get-right game, these two teams met in December last season. Falcons won 40-14. Perhaps not as high scoring, but I do see a Falcons victory. And if there isn't one, if the Falcons lose, I think Dan Quinn is next to join Jay Gruden in the unemployment line. We are all taking Atlanta, Steve. Does that include you?
Yes, it does. Another sweep.
All right.
There's a question for you guys. There's a question.
Okay, go ahead, Neil.
Who's the next coach to be fired? I'll go Freddie Kitchens.
You go Freddie Kitchens. Interesting.
Wow.
I'll stick with Dan Quinn. James?
Wow. I don't know. I feel like being completely out of the box here. I'll say Adam Gase.